Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Thursday. We have some great stuff today. One, we have a guest speaker that's going to be coming in a few to talk about the state of the city. That's Mayor Tasha. And also, I'm going to be providing you with some broker updates as well. Okay. But for the sake and respect for each and every one of you, please make sure you silence your phones. That way, we don't have any interruptions. All right, let's continue. Next slide. All right, our mission, our beliefs, and our vision to provide agents with a place where they will be empowered, trained, and motivated to experience growth, wealth, and a legacy that allows them to live their best life possible. Our belief, when the values of your own company align with your own beliefs, you know you found your professional home. And our vision to achieve amazing professionals and personal development so that KW South Bay remains the agency of choice. Yes, yes, yes. All right, let's continue. Next slide. Just a friendly reminder, your support team here, all of these amazing leaders are here to support you and your business and your clients. Okay, if you need to talk to any of us, here are the go-to individuals that will help and support you. Let's continue. Next slide. All right, we want to welcome the newest agents to the office. Michelle, is Michelle here? Ashley and Cliff. Okay, these are the newest additions to the office. The great thing is this month in April, which is today the last day, we brought in 10 amazing agents to the office. 10 amazing agents to the office, which is great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Good stuff. And the goal is to be consistent every single month, right? To bring in 10 or more to the office. So these are, again, individuals that are mixed experience and newly licensed agents. And we will have another one next week. She's taking her state exam and she has the confidence that she's going to do really well. And she's going to talk to me right after and says that I passed the state exam. So awesome stuff. All right, let's continue. Next slide. All right, there she is right off the bat. Let's bring Heather Tanada up here. Let's give her a round of applause. Congratulations, her. And clapping. Congratulations. Awesome. So tell us a little bit of how you became a capper.
How did I become a capper? Just working hard. That's all there is.
Simple, right?
Yeah, just working hard.
Awesome.
Every day being consistent.
Yeah.
And it's been, really great also like the support of Gary and then Talia, just helping keep me accountable and on track with my goals.
Love that. Love that. So thank you. I appreciate you. And let's give her a round of applause, guys. Thank you very much. Good job. All right. Next we have Jesus. Where's Jesus? I just saw him. He just left. He's probably knocking it out with a call. So we'll give him a round of applause in a little bit. Yeah. No, Jesus. Not yet. I don't see him, but as soon as he comes back, we'll give him his plaque. All right, let's go ahead and continue. Next slide, please. Okay, now we can bring our food sponsor, Miss Susie Pelshaw with Fidelity National Home Warranty. How are you? Good to see you. Yes.
Right. Brought me to breakfast and lunch because 10:30 is a really weird time. So I got you sugar, donuts, and then I got you salad. So I got you healthy and not healthy. I hope it satisfies everybody, okay? And vegetarian as well. Does anybody know what these are?
No.
These are, so I get these once a month. These are service cards that I get for my territory alone. Granted, think about it. There's 250 to 300 Fidelity home warranty reps in our company. This is just for my territory alone. These are all the service claims that we paid out in my territory for the month of April. So just to let you know, Fidelity is absolutely doing their job. $30,000 in South Bay alone. I do South Bay, Palos Verdes, Hawthorne, Lawndale, Stampede Drive. $30,000 for the month of April we paid out to your customers, to your agent, or I'm sorry, you're the agents, to your homeowners. Let me just read a couple that just came from this office and to let you know what we're hitting. So what we'll do is we'll send this to you via email. I'm actually having them mail them to me because I feel like some of you aren't opening your emails to see this. It might go into your spam, but I'm not a blanket person that like blankets you with a lot of paperwork. I'm very into the environment, but this is one thing. This is probably the best marketing piece that you can use to gain listings, to gain business, to get repeat and referral clients. This speaks volumes. I have agents that use this that are 40 years in the business and that are just starting out. What this does is, like, when we go out to your property, when we go out to your client's property, they only pay this $100 service fee. They have no idea what it costs of the things that we're doing. This will tell you what we do. So this is a great touch point piece for you to give your client a call. I get so many agents that say, I'm kind of running out of things to say. I don't know what to say to my homeowners anymore. I kind of want to touch base with them and I don't want to do a pitch. This is a perfect lead-in piece. It tells you what we service, what the property is, the date of service, and a running tally. So for example, if we went out on the property 3 times and we serviced the microwave and the dishwasher and the air conditioner, it will give you a running tally. But this, just say, I'm so glad I put that Fidelity home warranty on your property. Did you know that we saved you $1,500? Money speaks volumes. And just say, could you please think of me and reach out to me if anyone in your family is selling, any of your friends, family, can you put me on your referral list, because we're making sure that you're protected after close of escrow. It's a great pitch piece for you guys to use. So just a few here. We have $345 for a range, $483 for a sump pump, $445 for an oven. Hoffman Murphy team, $1,137 for plumbing for one of their properties, $483 for heating, $1,573 for pool spa. So these are expensive items that we're paying out. So that's just food for thought. No pun intended.
Love that.
Then really quickly, just want to bless you. I just want to clarify because I get a lot of calls on this. So, and I'm sure you guys have heard this from everybody, but just to make it easy and simple for you, 2 exact same plans. The only difference is purple is 12 months, blue is 13 months, $30 for 30 more days. That's how I look at it. If I get to, I work with Chris daily. Chris, she's fabulous. If she sends me something and says there's $1,700 in allotment, I'll say, how do you want me to spend that? Just keep in mind that escrows, your TCs, and your home warranty reps don't walk the property. We don't know what's on that property. I try to go on the MLS and I try to see, but we can't actually tell if there's an outdoor kitchen sometimes or additional refrigerator or a fountain or anything like that. So I do want to spend your money, but I don't want to spend your money and I don't want to buy something for you that isn't on the property. So if you have $30 extra, get the 13-month policy. I don't know why. I don't know if it's law of attraction. I don't know what it is. Homeowners love that extra month. They love having 13 months. I don't know if things break down in the 13 month. I don't know, but they love that. So just put CRES Fidelity and then whatever kind of coverage you want. Again, if you shoot me an email and say, Susie, will you order this for me? Happy to order for you, but I will come back and say, does it have a pool and spa? Does it have air conditioning? Does it have an additional refrigerator? Just let me know what you have. That being said, if the homeowner wants to pay above and beyond your allotment, we can send a pay link to them direct, and then they can buy whatever they want, and then you don't have to deal with that at all, and we can do that outside of escrow. Just really quickly, I don't want to take up too much time. There's 3 other options that we have that have been becoming super, super popular right now. If you have the money to spend, we have a water heater tune-up, a garage door tune-up, and a manufacturer's warranty. Water heater is $20, garage is $15, manufacturer's is $10. We are spending a ton of money on that. So basically a home warranty, we take care of major systems and appliances in the home breakdowns. These are actually service items. I call them the Jiffy Lube of services. We'll do a 10-point check for the water heater. We'll do a 15-point check for the garage door opener and all the mechanisms. Manufacturer's warranty, let me tell you this. Years ago, the manufacturers, they're not telling you this, they used to pay for the labor and the part or the recall. If the dishwasher got recalled, for example, they would pay for that and the labor. They're not paying for labor anymore, and they're not telling your clients. They're not telling anybody because they're pulling costs. They're pulling money just like everybody else is. If you have that $10 option from us, we'll pay the labor. I just did one. The part was $125. that the homeowner got paid for by the manufacturer, the labor was $750. Fidelity picked that up. So the labor is actually more than what the manufacturer is paying for. So, I mean, $10, it's so worth it that agent came out a hero in his client's eyes. The only plan that we do include that on, and I don't want to confuse you, but I do want you to take all my stuff over by the food so you have the brochure. Our last plan, Enhanced Plus plan, it does cover for that. So it's not added. You don't need to pay that for an option. So I just want to make sure you guys are protected. Also, it's spring right now, and I have door hangers. I've been being nailed off the hook for them. So I put a box together of all our kinds of door hangers. They're going to be drop shipped for you guys here because people are calling me at different times saying, can you get me this? Can you get me this? I can't get there every single day. My territory is big. I'm all over the place. So I'm going to drop ship them here. They're free. You guys take at will. And if you're doing a special farm or a bigger farm or whatever, shoot me an email so I make sure that I order enough for you guys. But take them at will. Again, I always say I have agents that are super seasoned in the industry. They're still using our door hangers and that work. And I have agents that are just starting out trying to get their footprint in the ground. So we're here to help build your business and to protect your business any way that we can. Please call on me. I'm so happy to help you guys. And thank you for this opportunity to speak with you. It's been too long. Are there any questions at all? Is the food good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for the time. Thank you.
Susie Palshaw, everyone. Thank you. Great information. All right, let's continue. Next slide, please. All right, listing pitches, buyers' needs and wants. Anyone? Any upcoming? Yes, Eric.
I'm looking for, I have a buyer looking for any nice duplex, hopefully vacant for 800,000. Southeast LA, like Huntington Park, all the way up to like maybe like Norwalk, Bellflower, anything in between. A very serious buyer around 800,000 for a solid duplex. And I got other stuff, but I'll share it another time.
Okay, awesome. Good. Anyone else?
We have a pool home coming up.
A pool home in Carson?
Yeah,
Okay.
4 bedroom, pretty bad, 2,200 square foot. Somebody's looking for something like that.
Okay.
With a nice pool, huge backyard.
What is the price?
Like 1.2.
1.2. Okay. If anyone's looking for a pool home, City of Carson, reach out to Gary. Anyone else? Yeah, please.
I still have that commercial space for lease in Inglewood. The owner's willing to rent out individual offices for around $1,000. Like if somebody wants like a 500 to 700 square foot space, you guys know any business owners, small business owners that need an office space, he'll rent it for like 900 to 1,100.
What's the price range that your clients are looking for the duplex?
Like under 900. Yeah. But also I got that commercial space. You guys know anybody needs office space, like just a nice little space for this price?
Awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and continue. Next slide. All right. I wanted to provide you with a broker update. These are real live situations that have occurred. As many of you know, as the broker of record, my responsibility is, compliance, right? Diffusing situations and helping you get through the finish line with your deals, right? I'm under the regulations with the Department of Real Estate. So, at any point we can be audited by the DRE, right? So this is why we're so on top of compliance, making sure your file is complete before any release of any of commissions, because at any given time, like I mentioned, the Department of Real Estate can come back and say, hey, I want to see your files from last year in the month of April on the 15th, and whatever closed transactions, they'll look through them and make sure that we're in compliance. So that's why it's important that, you're on top. You also want to have a TC as well that will help you with all of the paperwork, because I know how tedious paperwork really is, so this is why you want to have that additional support and guidance on timelines to fulfill your client's position and get you to the closing. All right, so I want to provide you with one scenario that did happen here. It's a loan contingency escape, okay? We ended up representing the seller. Buyer submitted an offer and entered into escrow. Escrow period was 45 days. Buyer removed all contingencies except the loan contingency. Buyer then submitted a request for repairs. Seller completed the request of repairs, okay? In reliance on the transaction moving forward. No extensions was provided in escrow, was ever requested or signed. 2 days before closing, the buyer agent informed us that the buyer was not approved for the loan. Buyer demanded a full return of the earnest deposit. Okay. I want you to resonate this a little bit because these are real situations that occur on a regular basis. Okay. So, one, if you understand how the complexity of the forms work, then you'll understand the shield protection, right? Every contingency that you release exposes that buyer's deposit, right? That's what we call good faith deposit, right? If you're going to tie up a property for 30 days, right, would any seller take face value your client and open escrow without any skin in the game, meaning any deposit, right? So this is the reason real estate is so dynamic, but it's also can be very risky, right? Because once the buyer releases any and all contingencies, right, it exposes the buyer if the buyer doesn't perform. The goal is obviously to get the deal to the finish line, close, record, hand over the keys to the client, and everyone wins, right? So I wanted to throw this scenario at you because I wanted to get your perspective and what you think occurred here, right? One, the loan is still in place, right? But there's something that is said on this that the seller did. Okay? The seller did what? What?
Repairs.
Yeah. The seller did repairs. Okay? Some of the repairs ended up in excess of $8,000. $8,000. Okay? Which also included a termite clearance. All right? Now think about this for a minute. 2 days, they say they couldn't get the loan. They couldn't qualify. They had their loan contingency in place, right? So how many people think, based on this situation, that the buyer has the right to cancel and the right to their full deposit? Anyone?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay, tell me more.
See, it's because it's on both sides, because it's a 45-day escrow, 2 days before escrow, that's 43 days. Loan contingency is 17 days, so the selling agent, listing agent should have been demanding
An extension?
an extension or a loan contingency removal.
Right.
So 25 days of not communicating to the buyer that that contingency is still open is kind of, you know.
Yeah. You're in the right track. And I love what you said, Fred, because there was no extensions given. Okay. The buyer didn't ask for the extension, and the agent, unfortunately, did not enforce the notice to perform to release that contingency, which is the loan. And the reason behind the scenes is that the lender needed extra time, but there was no extension ever given. Okay. So when the 2 days came, the agent comes back and says that the buyer unfortunately didn't qualify. And I don't recall what it was. I don't know if it was an insurance issue, but ultimately they wanted to cancel. They sent out the cancellation, and they also asked for a full deposit. Okay. We represented the seller, not the buyer. Okay. This was an outside agent with the buyer. So the agent brought it to my attention. I dissected, I analyzed the situation, and I put theory over it, right? Because at the end of the day, it's not about what the buyer says or what the seller says. It's what ultimately the contract stipulates. Meaning, what does the contract say, right? Well, the contract in black and white says that, you know, the buyer did not release all contingencies, so there is no breach. But also remember that the seller incurred damages because the seller did work in lieu of that the buyer was moving forward, right? So what ended up happening is the seller disagreed with the cancellation and said, we will not cancel. We will not return the buyer's deposit because I've been damaged. That was the claim from the seller. So what happened was there was not a meeting of the mind. So basically everything was on standby. The buyer agent came back, well, that's not right. You cannot, stop the initial process. The buyer never, and the agent kept reiterating about the contingency still in place, the loan contingency. Okay. And yeah, unfortunately, the buyer couldn't qualify for the loan. But the seller still felt compelled that there was damage. So after back and forth, what do you think was the end result to this? Do you think that the seller eventually released the deposit back to the buyer? Yeah, correct. There was an agreement in place. And after back and forth, the buyer realized it's not worth it because we kept throwing, listen, the seller is not in the position to release it without compensation. The seller didn't have to do all these repairs. I get it, but they did it in good faith. And all they were asking is, we'll cancel under the terms and condition that the buyer will at least release the $8,000 or $8,500 in lieu of the repairs that were granted for the buyer's sake to purchase the property. Okay. And then they threw up a number. And then I knew at that point in time that we were going to win because now there was flexibility that the buyer realized there's no way that we're going to win this without going through a mediation. And the mediation can be weeks. And the mediation's position is to really just kind of negotiate. Okay. It's not signing for either party. It's just come to a conclusion. Well, at the end of this scenario, the buyer folded and ended up canceling and releasing $8,500 to the seller. Okay, even with the contingency in place. How about that? Yes, sir.
But other contingencies were released, so that gives the seller the implication of the sign that, okay, the buyer is moving forward.
Yeah.
But what was not communicated was the loan cost. So
Exactly.
it puts the buyer that, hey, they're gonna buy the property. So
Yeah.
it's not really a seller's fault.
Yeah, it really isn't. Now, we can look at it from two different faucets, right? One section is, I would probably have asked the seller to wait on any repairs until they release all contingencies. Okay. Then go with the motion of doing any repairs, right? And some of the questions I get, well, what if it was a termite and we're so close and we don't have time? Well, you're just going to have to try to do an extension of time or close the deal and then have the termite be done after the fact, after the deal closes. That's sometimes what needs to happen. Okay.
And it probably would have been different if the seller did not put the work in, because if the seller did not put the work in, then yeah, the buyer would have that. But to make the seller whole, because
That's right.
One, the property is now higher value because the work has been done.
Correct.
Or
yeah. If I can go back in time and kind of quarterback this, if the seller didn't do any repairs, then I would have instructed the agent and the seller says, look, the buyer unfortunately didn't qualify for the loan. What damage did you really incur here, right? So I would probably navigate it to release the money back to the buyer. But because the seller did a lot of work with the intent that the buyer was going to perform and close the deal, this is why the seller felt that, I won't release until I at least get some of my money. And, we were gambling because we didn't even know if the buyer was going to release, the $8,500, but they ultimately did. So just looking at a scenario that can happen. Okay. Next slide. All right. Scenario number 2, the investor who wanted to assign the deal. How many How many agents have been in a situation where you have a wholesaler, right? We represented both the seller and the buyer. So we represented the buyer and also the seller. Submitted an offer through an entity, which is an LLC and a corporation. Buyer claimed he was personally purchasing the property. So the buyer says, yeah, I'm buying it with the intent of renovating, fix and flip, right? Escrow was only supposed to be 15 days. All contingencies were removed. This is a different situation. Contingencies were removed. Buyer came back and asked if the contract could be assigned to a friend. Now remember, all contingencies, including the assignment sector, stipulated that they couldn't assign it. Usually you have 17 days to do so. In this case, the buyer released all. But the buyer's mindset was he had no intentions of buying it. He wanted to wholesale it. But they didn't tell the agent that. The agent clearly said, you're not planning to wholesale this. You plan to buy it. And the buyer said yes. So this is where it went sideways and ultimately where the situation went in the wrong path. So the buyer insisted it was not a big deal and said he had been in the industry for a very long time. The listing agent became suspicious, reached out for some guidance. We contacted the seller. Seller declined the assignment. Buyer refused to close, and seller issued a demand to close because remember, it was only a 15 days. After going back and forth, every single day was getting us close to that 15 days. So we ended up sending a demand to close 3 days before the date of close of escrow because the buyer was not performing. Now the buyer said, okay, I will buy the property. And then went under us, called the escrow officer and asked if the escrow officer, if they do double escrow. Okay. Immediately, the escrow officer reached out to us and says, hey, the buyer came with a question here. We don't do double escrows. Okay. Now, if you don't understand what double escrow is and how that works, it's basically the same thing. They're not really buying the property. They're using a escrow number as a holding contingent or a holding part with the intent that when the buyer comes in with all of the money, it will then get transferred to the actual buyer that's going to buy the property. So it's a little bit complicated, and a lot of escrow officers will not do double escrow. So we ended up canceling. The buyer reached out to me and says, look, I just don't understand why you guys can't do this because you misled us. You misled the agent, you misled the seller, and the seller's very upset because your intention. And we had a lot of offers. There was multiple offers, even higher. But because he said he was going to buy it all cash, close in 15 days, release any and all contingencies, the seller wanted a fast sale. Well, that didn't happen. Then we found out that the person that was actually going to buy was a hedge fund company. They're based here in El Segundo. So they reached out and their department says, hey, look, I'm sorry for the confusion and the misunderstanding. We thought we had a slam dunk deal because the agent that brought us the property says it's locked in, we're ready to buy. So they are the ones that actually put the earnest deposit, not the buyer. We didn't know that either. So now the money is in escrow. Now the company says, look, we can make a side deal. We can work and get this done. I says, yeah, not a problem. The seller is willing to sell the property. We can go ahead and do so subject to the cancellation of this one. Well, can you just transfer that deposit to this new escrow? I says, no, unfortunately, that's a separate transaction. This is totally different. These are different terms and conditions that we must deal with. So we went back and forth, and unfortunately, they didn't want to release that money to the seller because the seller had every right. Now, remember, the buyer released all contingencies, everything. So the seller felt damaged and says, look, we'll cancel, but with the position of releasing that deposit to the seller. Well, they didn't cancel or release that to the seller. So we ended up canceling officially. We went back and forth. We couldn't come to an agreement. She ended up putting the property back on the market. And she had another buyer who ultimately was not an investor, was a buyer that was going to go in there and do sweat equity, do the work and live in the property. And we ended up closing 30 days later with the second buyer. The current escrow is still pending. Okay. It's canceled, but there's still a deposit in escrow. We reached out after we closed and said, hey, you know what? The deal closed with another buyer. They were surprised because they thought they had still an opportunity to buy this property. But we ended up selling it to another buyer that came through. Now, what happens with the deposit that is currently still in escrow on the first original, right?
The escrow has to file an interview.
Exactly. Yeah. So if we cannot come to a meeting of the mind, and we reached out to the buyer trying to come to an agreement that says, listen, the seller's in a position that doesn't need all of the money, okay? But give us something to work because you didn't perform. Oh no, we're going to get our attorneys involved and reach out to you. Well, the attorneys never reached out to us. The asset manager never reached out to us. The broker of record who I reached out to on this hedge fund company did not reach out to us either. So I says, let it be. Let it be. Look, we have nothing to do with it. We made our efforts and approach to work with them. They're not budging. 10,000 is still in escrow. So we'll just leave it as it is. If they want to come back and talk, then we're open for a discussion.
Did
Okay.
they resell the property?
Yeah.
Equal to what the original?
They sold it for more. Yeah, they sold it for more.
The seller just give the money back and just be done with it.
We talked about that. We talked about that. But because the seller feels that they were misled by this buyer, there's a little bit of an emotional connection to that. And this is the reason that the seller is being firm and not releasing that deposit.
I want to spend 20 with her attorney to be able to make that.
I don't think the seller's going to do anything.
I think
The deal closed already. She already got her proceeds. So the question is, we didn't represent the buyer on this.
That 10 grand still hasn't been released from escrow.
Yeah, it hasn't.
So when they finally come and they come to the seller to release, what do you think the position will be?
Well, again, the seller says, I'm open to discuss any negotiation. 100%. The seller can stay firm on that and say, nope, you know what? We're asking for the full deposit of $10,000. That's an escrow, or throw something at us. And I think the seller is in a position that as long as they throw 5,000 into this, we'll release 5 and we'll keep 5. You know? Yes, sir.
Thank you for this example because in the new agent in real estate class, we talk about the interpleader. The interpleader is when both sides can't decide what to do with the money in escrow. Escrow files an interpleader, which now determines, and it does go to court, but it determines where that money goes. So because they can't keep it in there for a long time, so they have to file the, and escrow is the one that files the interpleader.
That's right. And what happens is if no one comes to a resolution, eventually that money goes to the state. You know, so everyone loses. So it's to the buyer's advantage to come back with a negotiations and say, hey, we'll release $1,000. Start with something, but they're not. They're being firm and they're not. I says, okay, look, I'm not going to force you. We don't represent it. We didn't represent the buyer, or excuse me, we did represent the buyer in this case. And the buyer agent had reached out numerous times, radio silence, to try to come to a resolution, but that didn't happen. So just be mindful of some of the things that can happen, folks, when it comes to investors. Immediately when you get a listing and there's investors, be mindful and cautious. Is this buyer a true investor, or is this investor really wholesaling it to someone else? Because the contract allows you to wholesale, and wholesaling, or assignment, I should say, is to your own entity, your own personal trust, your corporation, S Corp, C Corp, or your LLC. But it doesn't say it can be transferred to another individual, okay? That has to be consent by the seller. Okay? Be mindful. Thoughts, questions, or concerns? All right. All right, I believe our guest speaker is here. She's getting Wi-Fi? Okay. Okay. All right, well, let me get the last, let's go back, Natalie. One more scenario I'll throw. Do you guys want one more? Okay. All right, the last one here. The buyer who wanted an inspection before deposit, earnest deposit was in escrow. All right. We represented the seller. The buyer was an investor. Offer was accepted. The contract required the earnest deposit to be delivered to escrow within 3 business days. 2 days after acceptance, the buyer contacted the listing agent and said they wanted to do an inspection first. They did not want to deposit their earnest deposit until they confirmed the property looked good. True scenario. Okay. Fred is here chuckling and laughing because he knows where this is going, right? And I want to be mindful of this because you can be in a position that if you don't understand how these contracts work, then you're going to get yourself in a position where you're going to be frustrated and delay of the process, and it's not going to look good on you or your clients. So what do you think on this one here? That they got their offer accepted. They have 3 days to put in the earnest deposit. They called the listing agent and said, oh, by the way, we don't want to put the deposit just yet. We want to do our thorough inspections before we put in the deposit. So what's your take? The day was, the offer was accepted to
Day of the week.
the day of, it was on a Monday or Tuesday. Monday or Tuesday. So it was during the week.
So I think the real question is, because I get this scenario quite a bit. And I always say, no, until you put your deposit in, you're not doing inspection. So what's right?
What is right? Well,
They can do their inspection on day number 1, because again, they have 3 business days to be able to get their deposit funds in.
right.
So they can do the whole physical inspection on calendar day 1, okay, or calendar day 2. That's the reason why I asked what day of the week, because if the offer was accepted on Thursday, okay, business day 1 is Friday, which is also calendar day 1.
Right.
But business day 2 isn't until Monday,
Right.
which is calendar day
Right.
4. Okay, so
So the offer was accepted on a Tuesday. So Tuesday considers 0 days. Okay. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they had till Friday to put in the earnest deposit. 2 days of that day, which would have been Thursday, the buyer reaches out, says, hey, I don't want to put in my deposit until we do our inspections, right? So in these situations, what is the right thing to do is, well, follow the contract. That's simple. Or send a notice to perform. I would have told the buyer, I would have said, hey, you have every right to do your due diligence, not a problem. But if you don't put in the deposit as per the contract, which is Friday, then the notice of performance will be sent. Now, remember, the notice of performance is 48 hours, meaning you can do it in advance. So that way, on the day of that Friday, if the buyer doesn't perform by 11:59 p.m., okay, the seller has the right to cancel. Okay.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
Devil's advocate.
Okay.
17 days contingency period for inspections. So does that turn out to be 20 days? Or is the 3 days considered part of the 17?
No, the 3 days has nothing to do with the inspection. The deposit.
Understand. They want to do an inspection.
Yeah.
Inspection contingency is 17 days.
Yeah.
So does that 3 days minus the 17, or can they actually get 20 days?
No, 17 days. Remember, the day of acceptance is 0 days. The following starts your 1 day of 17 days. So you don't get additional time. It's still within the 17 days. So at that time, it's down like 13 days to do their inspections. But I think they did a 10-day physical inspection as part of the agreement. But the intent was they didn't want to put the deposit because as much as I know, they wanted to make sure what they were getting themselves into before they put in the money. Because once the money is in escrow, it's going to be hard for the buyer to cancel and say, oh, we're going to get the money deposit back, right? So that's kind of the sensitivity that, you just got to be very careful and mindful not to get yourself in that trap. Does that make sense? Yeah. So thoughts, questions, concerns regarding that? Yes, sir.
So what was the outcome of it?
So the outcome, it was that the buyer ended up putting in the deposit on time, on that Friday or Thursday, and I believe they ended up closing the deal. So they were just using tactics to not put in the deposit in case they needed to back out. They didn't have to worry about holding that money in escrow. But as a listing agent, folks, be very, very careful with those situations because that's just everyone's wasted time, right? If they're not thoroughly going to follow the contract, then, don't even bother, send a notice to perform and cancel the deal ASAP. So, okay. All right, let's continue. Next slide. Is the mayor here? I don't see the mayor. All right, so we'll go ahead and do just a quick introduction while we wait for the mayor. I believe she's here in the building already, right? Yes? Okay. So while she comes, let me just do a quick little bio. So Mayor Tasha Cedar, who has served the city of Gardena since 2017, and has been a strong leader in the community for many years. She's known for her commitment to public safety, neighborhood involvement, and bringing business and positive growth to the city of Gardena. Mayor Sita has also made history as the first female mayor in the city of Gardena, and I believe in the state of California as well. Yeah, so without further ado, Mayor Tasha Cedar. How are you?
Just a little late here. It's campaign season right now, so it's what we call crazy season.
Yeah.
Right here. But it's always an honor to be able to come before groups such as yourself to speak and somewhat closely, very familiar with the real estate community. My brother and sister are both real estate agents. In fact, one of them is a broker. Okay, thank you. And she went from a real estate broker. She's done loans for many years, so I get to be up to date with everything that's going on. For me, my background, my daytime job, I'm an insurance agent, so I'm very familiar with real estate and what's going on there. But in the city of Gardena, we have what we call part-time elected officials. And I think I'm sharing my screen here. I don't know if it's what it's showing here yet.
Does the office have your slide or is
I'm in the Zoom here as well. They're going to let me share. So I can kind of go through a quick presentation.
Yeah.
But in the city of Gardena, we have part-time elected officials. And it's like that in most cities, except for maybe larger cities like the city of LA, Inglewood, maybe Carson, where they have what they call full-time elected officials. And basically what that means is that you just get what we call part-time pay, stipend pay. So we're like what I consider glorified volunteers because we just love the city. But in doing this here, you have to love what you do and deciding to become an elected official. For me, it started 27 years ago. Back in 1999, I went to my first neighborhood watch meeting. I went there to talk about 3 concerns I had. I didn't like the fact that the city wasn't planting flowers enough. We had people stealing recyclables in our trash can. I can't remember the third item was. And I was going to go share my concerns and then go home and finish watching Law and Order. And what I didn't know was they were trying to get our neighborhood watch organized. And I said, you know what, maybe I'll help. I can do something to help out, whatever little skills I thought I had. And lo and behold, 10 years later, after becoming the secretary, the liaison to the city council, the website coordinator, and then the president, I ended up being the person that helped all the neighbors get potholes taken care of, trees trimmed, what's the quick number to get to the police department, the non-emergency number, how to get a hold of your mayor. And I was doing so much of that for 10 years that I decided, you know what, I might as well run for office. And so in 2007, I tried running for city council. It took me 3 times before I won, but I finally won in 2009 as a city council member. Did that for 8 years. And then in 2017, I decided to run for mayor, and I won. And it was an interesting race because everybody on the city council decided to run, and a former mayor and a former city council member. So it was a crazy race, but lo and behold, I won. And as was mentioned earlier, first female mayor, first African-American mayor, and first Native American mayor the city has ever had. And so I didn't even realize at the time when I won that I would be the first of so many different things. I was just running to win. So in the 9 years that I've been mayor now, we have changed a lot of things in Gardena. We have a lot of new developments happening in Gardena, a lot of new housing. In our city, the statistics have shown that maybe about 51% of our residents are renters and the other 49% are homeowners. And from, over the years, that number kind of changes a little bit, but it always averages about 50%. So Gardena was incorporated back in, let me see if I can share now. I don't think I have access yet. Let's see. Do you want to continue?
Just because we have it on Zoom for the people that are on Zoom, we may have to minimize. Let me see.
Just tell me what I need to do, and because I have a PowerPoint up and ready. So in Gardena, our city, we're celebrating this past September our 95th anniversary. So our city was incorporated in 1930. And if it doesn't come up, I can talk through this whole thing. Politicians, we can do that. But our city was incorporated in 1930. And last year, I decided to do a presentation where I showed what the city was like in 1930 versus where we're at now, how far we've come along. And it was interesting because I did all the research myself. And you couldn't just start with 1930. You had to go back even further to see what Gardena was like. So I went back as far as 1917 in our city. There was a lot of information out there. There were books and articles and so on. And just, I knew a little bit about Gardena, being that it was a farm community. It was berry farms and milk dairy places around town. And one of the things that they talk about on the internet is that Gardena was like the berry capital. So strawberries, blueberries, any kind of berry, it was grown in Gardena, and it was shipped all over the state. And so there was like a red car, a train that would come through the city like once or twice a week and would take berries everywhere. Well, fast forward, after the city was incorporated about 30 years later, we decided that we wanted casinos in Gardena. We had 7 different casinos, I think, in the 70s when my family moved to Gardena, and that was probably at its height. So 7 casinos, and some of you guys may remember, if you guys see some head shaking in the back, El Dorado Club was around back then, the Rainbow Club and so on. And it looked like Vegas when you drove into Gardena because there was all these lights flashing and so on. And it was pretty neat. And the casinos did a lot in Gardena. I mean, they were the ones who paid for our new pools. They were financing a lot of things. And a lot of their people who were involved with the casinos ended up being on the city council as well. And so, yeah, there we go. And you can just click on that first screen right there, and then we'll go to slides there. Oh, that's fine. Yeah. And so, that was a big part of Gardena, like I said, in the 40s and 50s were the casinos there. And I'm going to share a really interesting fact. If you guys ever, when you're going to Vegas, you've noticed there's a casino called Prim Casino on the way down there. I think it may be closed now. But one of our casinos, the Normandy Club, one of the owners was Mr. Prim himself, and the other owner was Mr. Miller. And Mr. Prim wanted his money out because he said he wanted to go to the desert and build a casino there. So he was bought out by Mr. Miller, decided to go towards Vegas, and he built Prim Casino there. And so it's just an interesting fun fact. Every time I drive by there, we see that. Let me go backwards here real quick. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. There's a lot of slides. I'm going to talk through it quick, and then I'll answer any questions. So this here is the city of Gardena here. We're located off of 162nd and San Pedro. We like to honor all the different days in our community: Women's Day, First Responders Day, things of that nature. We have a lot of commissions and committees that a lot of people, business owners and residents sit on. In fact, 2 of my commissioners are real estate agents. Every council member can appoint someone. So they have to be a resident of Gardena. So one is on the planning commission, another one is on our economic advisory board, but there's a lot of commissions for various things. We also partner a lot with different nonprofit groups and organizations. And there's about 62 of these on here, and we do a lot of events with them. It's moving kind of slow. There we go. So we do a lot of events where we like to do a lot of cross marketing with them, whether it's our Veterans Day events. We might have a Veterans Day ceremony, and then our veterans across the street might have a luncheon afterwards. We send our staff over there to help, prepare food for them because maybe they don't have enough members. Sometimes we decide that we're going to pay for the event and just host it over there. But again, a lot of, marketing back and forth, or what I consider cross marketing back and forth with them. Our CERT group, same thing with them. They're the emergency response group for big disasters. We partner with them on various things. And it's just a lot of collaboration with a lot of our different organizations and groups. So a little bit of history, like I mentioned before, this was Gardena back in 1930, the berry farms here. Back in the day, this is what they call their Loyalty Day Parade. Very different than our parades now, but still the same concept. This here is Gardena Boulevard, way back when. It looked like, the old Western days. And interestingly enough, some of these streets had different names. And so I had to go back and get maps and compare streets like Palm Avenue, now is, I think, 162nd Street or Gardena Boulevard. And so it was just different. Gardena had 2 airports back in the day, and we call them ghost airports now because they no longer exist. So there were actually hangars there. These were the planes, and they actually had, Gardena Valley Airport on it. These were between like 135th and Western. Another one was between Marine and Rosecrans, right around Van Ness. And so, it was very different then. 1930s, this was a fire truck, there versus, what we have now. Our city hall was and a police department was in a slightly different building before. And this is when they started doing the groundbreaking and started updating where we're at right now with our city hall. The picture you saw in the very beginning where it had the Gardena sign, that was modern day versus this was what it was in the very beginning when they first started building that. You saw it before, this is what it is now. We have staff in various departments, our community development department, which is one that probably you guys deal with a lot when you guys are doing real estate transactions. Different reports that you guys need to get, and I can't think of all the terminology, but reports you get, that's the department you go to. This department also handles new developments. We have a lot coming to Gardena, Artesian, Western. There are new apartments, luxury apartments coming to town, similar to what you see on, what is this developer, the CERN Group, what they're building on, or what they built on Crenshaw Boulevard and Lameda called the Kaya. We're building a new project here, and this is what it's going to look like. They're beautiful luxury apartments. This is an area here on Artesia and Normandy, a spot that we've been trying to develop for many years, but it was heavily contaminated. We were able to figure out a way to safely build something here without endangering the community. It's going to be storage warehouse as well as a lot of parking where we'll be able to have events similar to on the side. And we're always just looking at ways to kind of bring up the area. This is an area on Redondo Beach Boulevard and Vermont. It's not in Gardena, but most people mistake it for Gardena. But we work with some of the developers in the surrounding communities. And this is a vacant lot here that had probably like 75 homeless people hanging out there. And I'm happy to say we're supporting the project, and this is what it's going to look like. And so what we try to do in our community is work with neighboring businesses and so on to kind of help uplift our areas, because people want to live somewhere where there's nice development around it. So whether it's luxury apartments, new retail spaces, people want that. Gardena Boulevard, we're getting ready to do a quick facelift there. We just got a grant where we're going to be able to put new awnings on the top of some of our buildings there, new light poles, and we're also new paint on any of the businesses that want to participate in our program. And so there's about 40 businesses down Gardena Boulevard, and if they meet the qualifications for our program, which is make sure your business license is up to date and you can show, your tax documents or whatever basic information, you can get the $60,000 grant to get new painting, new awnings, new signage. And we're going with the concept of neutral tones to kind of modernize Gardena Boulevard. We're also going to be putting zigzag lights along the top too. And this is all in the means of trying to get new types of businesses, similar to what a lot of our residents want, coffee shops, little quick food eateries. I'm sure most of you guys have come to Gardena to go to Giuliano's. And so you're kind of familiar with that area. Most people only go there for Giuliano's, but we want them to go there for other businesses. We have a really strong code enforcement group that get out there and they deal with situations like this here. This isn't all of Gardena. These are just some spots here where, people just haven't taken care of their properties for various reasons, whether they were a hoarder or whether it was maybe a little old lady who her property got out of hand and she wasn't able to take care of. And so these are some of the extreme situations where we get phone calls of, this here was an apartment building. Well, yeah, this is a funny story to go with it. This here was an apartment building on the 3rd floor. There was a guy that decided he wanted to raise pigs. And we were getting all these crazy reports about somebody ramming the wall. And when PD went in there, they found these 2 large hogs. Pictures make it look smaller. It took us a week to get these hogs out because they were on the 3rd floor. We had to figure once we got them out where we were going to take them. And this included us doing research, like calling up a specialist to find out what type of pig this was. And then we had to call up a wrangler to see, how do you get a pig to come out? And then we had to, because we couldn't do this for almost a week, we had to go and check on the pigs twice a day. We had to feed them and water them while they were up on the 3rd floor. Once it was, I know it's crazy. Once it was explained how we deal with it, then we had to figure how we were going to lure this 2 pigs down 3 flights of stairs. And then we had to have the right kind of container to transport it. So we had to have our public works guys build a container. Then we had to figure out how do we lift it onto our truck. Then it was, where do we take it? And so we found a farm out in Thousand Oaks that had, it's like a petting zoo, and they were the ones who accepted the pigs. But it was a lot of coordination. And so this just kind of gives an idea. Sometimes when we get these situations, what our code enforcement has to do, going through the process here. And this is what it looked like before, once they got the pigs out, they were able to have them clean it up. And this is what it is afterwards. And our code enforcement is really, they're a really good group as far as getting out there and following through with things. He was arrested. He was also a criminal. He had warrants and so on. And that was part of, along with the complaints that we had, the police had arrested him. And in the process of the search, they saw the pigs, and then code enforcement was called out. And then we were getting complaints from the neighbors saying they could hear something ramming the walls. And so it was kind of a compilation of all of that. Cup of Noodles is a company that's in our city. We work with Cup of Noodles on various other companies. We like to promote them as much as we can. We do ribbon cuttings all the time. We love doing ribbon cuttings. So new businesses that come to our community. Through our finance department here, I'm happy to say Gardena is doing really good financially. Right now we have a $320 million budget, 86 million operating budget, but 320 million overall, which includes our investments, different grants we received. And I did a little chart here from 1930, what the city's average expenses were in 1930, and it was $500 a month. Okay. And now it's about 4.3 million a month. So this is what we're doing, on a regular basis here. Back in the 1930s, the city had no sales tax, and they relied totally on property taxes. Minimum wage back then was 33 cents versus now is $16.50. So I just want to kind of give people an idea of, just the difference from 1930 to now. This is actually a ledger from our Gardena Fire Department where firemen, when they were paid, the amounts were written in. And it was just such a fluke that we found this from I think this was the 1931 ledger we found where it was handwritten. In fact, I think I'm going to turn it over to their museum. Perfect example of this here was, I think this was the one, the water bill was 75 cents for the month, versus right now the water bill is, I think it was something like 120,000 for the month. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a lot. Back then, Gardena had its own money, $10 bill, $20 bill. There was a Bank of Gardena. So it was just some really neat facts that, we learned they had. Our public works department, we've been getting awards after awards for doing a really great job in maintaining our streets. We take a lot of pride in the fact that we hardly have any potholes. And there's a rating that the state does where they rate different cities on how good your streets are. And so the state's average, as far as streets that are even and not many potholes, the state's average is about 68. And right now, Gardena's is at 82. So you notice the difference when you come in our city. You know, because we're surrounded by, what is it, LA, Hawthorne, Torrance. And, you know, I don't know if anybody's from those cities, but I kind of like to brag and kind of pop our collar the fact that our streets are a little bit smoother right now. So, but even our railroads, for many years, we got complaints that when you go over the railroads, it felt like you were going to have to get an alignment job afterwards because it would tear up your car. So we worked with the local railroad company, we got grants, and we were able to fix this. And so these are just some things that our departments are doing just to be very proactive. This was that pavement index I was mentioning a moment ago about the way our streets are. I mentioned earlier about the casinos that were here, you know, that were funding different things. This is a pool that they did a grand opening for, and I thought I was going to have an older picture of it here. I'm going to jump to what the new pool looks like now. But our Parks and Rec department, their budget for the whole year was $190 versus now their budget for the year is $6.5 million a year. And the reason I wanted to do this correlation here is because our city, from a social aspect, we're doing over 100 events a year. And back in 1930s, it was interesting because some of the recreational activities they did were like little sock hop dances. They taught sewing, cooking, versus nowadays we're doing big parades. We're doing jazz festivals. For those of you who come to our festivals, you see on the right, it's about 8,000 people who show up there. Very different. We're working with AC Green, who's done basketball, soccer, and football camps with us. So we're taking advantage of being able to work with you know, celebrities and things like that to get our young people involved. These are just pictures of some of our events. We have amazing senior events in our city. Every month we do something called a candlelight dinner where our seniors have entertainment like live bands. They love to dance at all of our events. And funny fact, there's more women that attend our events than men. And so our staff thought, you know, like how can we make sure that everybody has a dance partner? Well, since we have our own police department and we partner with the fire department, we asked them to come over and dance. And it has been such a great thing because our seniors love it. And so if they're not on a call, their bosses tell them, come over there and come dance with the seniors. So it's pretty fun. I didn't include that picture in there. I have had some seniors tell me they've come from as far as Santa Ana to come to our senior events just because their city isn't doing anything. And so we've had the Wall That Heals that's come to Gardena. Our police department works with us with a lot of these events. This is our new pool now. We're going to be opening that this summer. So the original pool you saw, and I actually have another picture that's even older from back then, but it's just a big a contrast there. We had a sneak peek of what the pool looks like in March. I had my State of the City actually on the pool where I kind of walked out here and stood on the platform and presented it. And everybody sat in the stands there. But this here is going to be our new aquatic center, and the building behind there is going to be the new senior center. And so we'll have our Alzheimer's daycare there that we currently have. It's going to move to this building. There's going to be exercise classes and just a great place for the seniors to hang out. I'm going to skip through this part real quick. This is our city clerk's office. The one thing I just want to mention about that, it's like all other city clerk's offices, but something we're doing that's very unique is that we have passport services there. So residents don't have to go down to the federal building or go through the post office. You can go and make an appointment and, you know, just a lot closer and take your pictures there and so on. And the prices are the same that you would see elsewhere at the other places where they offer it. G-Trans, we have our own buses. Many years ago, it was called Gardena Municipal Bus Line, something. A few years ago, we decided we were going to change the name and change the color. This is the old buses here. We had 2 buses back in 1953 when they started. Now we're up to a fleet of this is an old bus here. We're up to a fleet of 53 buses now. We changed the name to G-Trans because we wanted a shorter, more trendier name. We came up with a new design because Gardena is known for being green. And so this was a compilation of city council, our city staff, the residents who ride the bus. We wanted everybody's opinion on this. We also took advantage of the fact of, since we're going to be modernizing the buses and purchasing new buses, we were trying to be eco-friendly. So all of our buses now are either electric or hydrogen. So that's our little motto. I'm clean, I'm green, and I'm electric. So, and this kind of gives an idea of some of our buses. We're also using compressed natural gas stations. You know, there's a lot of things that we're just going modern with as we're changing our bus line over. We also have our new mini buses. We call it Bolt. This is for residents who may not get on the larger buses, but like our seniors, they may need to get picked up from their house and taken to the grocery store. So these are shorter trips throughout the city. And right now we're doing a pilot program. It's $2 each way. Our seniors love it. And it's not just for the seniors, but any of us can use it. And they have an app so you can see in real time where it's at, kind of like Uber. So you can see if it's getting close to you or not. And at the same time, we're also teaching our seniors in some of the classes how to, be more tech savvy on your cell phones, because a lot of them are kind of pushing back from that. So we have tech classes on how to use your phone, and at the same time, use this app if you're trying to get around the city as well. Safety is a big concern for us. So our police chief and our transportation director, they meet on a regular basis, because I'm sure you guys have heard on the news how, like with Metro, people were being assaulted, and they're always looking at ways how we can protect our drivers as well as the other riders. So putting up barriers, having police officers jump on and off of buses from time to time while they're going throughout their route. I'm a speed passes part really quickly. We've probably got one of the best police departments around here. And we have our own SWAT team. We have a K9 team. Our police department does a lot. Back in the day when Gardena first started, and it's not a picture on here, but I did the history of the police department a few years ago. In 1930, there was one police officer. He was like, they didn't call him the sheriff. He was the chief of police. His secretary was his wife. And so either he would come to the police department or he would go home. And so if you needed a police officer, you would either call his home or you would call the station there. And when the chief was kind of going over some of the information, about the city when it was first in 1930, the population was 3,000, and versus now it's 61,000. But their biggest issue going on back then was illegal goats in town. So that's what the chief was always getting called out for. We thought it was kind of funny to show, for whatever reason, back in the 70s, somebody thought it would be a great idea to go with a green police car. And it didn't last very long. The fact that they were the laughing stock of the South Bay. They used to be known as the popsicle police because of the color of the car. And they decided to get away from that and go back to, more modern cars. Our police officers through district policing, you see our officers at a lot of functions. So if the kids are playing at the park and there are no calls going on, you'll see our officers out playing basketball with them. They're at all of our different jazz festivals, our food, wine, and cigar festivals. And community policing is just about getting to know your neighbors when everything is good, not necessarily when things are bad. And we started this over 20 years ago, and it is working so good because our residents know officers by their first name. Our officers, when we have different events, not only do they show up at events when they're off work, but they bring their wives and their kids. And so people get to know that, hey, this isn't the big bad officer who wants to come and pull a gun out, but he's a friend. He wants to go home to his wife and family as well. And every officer who's been hired in our city in some way is connected to Gardena. So if they don't live in the city, they either grew up in Gardena, their grandmother lives in Gardena, they went to school here for, some kind of way you have to be connected to our city. That's what the chief is looking for in the hiring process. We're also doing a lot with drones, with technology. We do something called predictive policing. We have license plate readers in our city. So when we have criminals that are going through lights or street takeovers, we're able to see in real time what's happening. We're deploying drones this year to help assist with calls so that they can get out there quicker. If somebody calls and says, hey, something's going on, the drone can be there in 90 seconds from City Hall to there. Versus our officers, it may take them 4 to 6 minutes to get there. So the drone is to be eyes on much quicker. Also, the license plate readers have been really helpful when we've had some of our seniors who have like dementia or Alzheimer's, when they're wandering off, we've been able to find them through our license plate readers that we have around town, especially if they're driving off. Again, these are some quick crime stats that we've given. Crime has gone down considerably in the past few years. This is we have 3 canine dogs. This is our newest dog, Ghost. Ghost here is a bomb sniffing dog. We have dogs that just sniff out guns. Others that are able just to, if they're looking for a person, catch your scent here and, help find a person. And they're really great dogs. They go through a lot of training. One of the newest programs we have for for those who have Alzheimer's or dementia is the Find and Protect campaign, where our police officers will give out the little Apple tags So you can get, they have these little shoe inserts that you can put the tag in for those who are dealing with dementia or Alzheimer's, where you can help track your senior, or even the little watches where you can put the tag in. We've been giving those away for free to help the caregivers out. We also have a program for some of our residents who are autistic or on the spectrum, where we have a sticker that their caregiver can put on the car so that when an officer approaches the car, that they know ahead of time that this person has a disability. So a lot of times when a person can't talk or they're mute and they may be motioning a certain way, that when an officer walks up on a car, it may seem a little aggressive. This sticker lets them know that, hey, this person might be on the spectrum, and proceed with caution there. And so we want to make sure that all of our community knows about this, and it just helps us better help them when we're walking up an officer, so that so a simple situation can't turn into something more dangerous. This is our predictive policing we do with our police department. Again, just a lot of different events that we're out there with. One of the things I want to note here, I just want to mention one here. We have a homeless outreach team with our police department. In Gardena, over the past 5 years, we've reduced homelessness by 78%. And we weren't getting Measure H money that the county was, saying, oh, we have all this money for this. We were doing this in-house. And the reason why I said we weren't getting Measure H money was that in 2016, the county decided to put a tax out, Measure H. And what this tax did, because everybody voted for it, because homelessness is a big issue, it took $2 million from Gardena a year. And at the most we could get back would be $200,000. And so what we didn't know for the first 7 years was that we had to apply to get our money back. And then we had to show that we had a homeless coordinator, we had a plan, we had a shelter, all these different requirements. So we just started taking care of the issue ourselves. Last year was the first year we got a little bit of the money back. So what happens is when that money comes in, as far as takes our sales tax, it goes into a big pot. Whoever can apply for it first, and a lot of times it's the bigger cities, they get our money. And so that's why we had to go into action taking care of our own situation. So when I mentioned a 78% decrease, I'm just going to give you real numbers here now. 2021, we had 197 homeless people. As of last year, we had 43. And so our homeless team here, what they do is they're dedicated to going out there and meeting the person who's homeless, asking them if they want help. If they don't want help, that's fine. But you can't set up an encampment in our city. So we let them know that, we have services and somewhere to take them, or, how we can get them in a program to, get off the streets. And if they're willing to, work with the officer, they will walk them through all the way 3, 6, 9 months out, because they want to make sure that they don't end up back on the streets. One of the other things that Gardena is unique in is that we don't allow RVs. So you may see that in the unincorporated part of LA, or sometimes they call the unincorporated part of Gardena, which really isn't Gardena. You see all these RVs and you hear all these crazy stories. That's not us. We don't allow RVs in our city. And unfortunately, if somebody tries to come on the Gardena side, our officers will let them know that, hey, you can't be here. You have to move your vehicle. And it's something that our residents do, appreciate.
Mayor, we have 5 more minutes.
Okay, I'm gonna wrap this up real quick, and I think it's stuck here. Let me see if I can. Okay, there. Whoop, I'm pushing it the wrong way. Oh, I'm right at the end here. Anyway, and so along with that, that's just a kind of a quick overview here. One of the other things we're really big on is staying connected with our community through social media, Facebook, Instagram. I mean, we're on TikTok, Nextdoor, Nixles for the police department when we notify people of accidents in like certain areas you shouldn't be. But just recently, I pushed really hard to hire a public information officer, because we're doing a lot of really great things in Gardena, a lot of movements happening in our city. The residents are really excited to hear when I announced we're getting a Sprouts, and just things that we haven't had for a long time in Gardena. When I first came in office in 2009, Gardena was what we call a drive-through city. People would get off the freeway, drive through our city, and go to Manhattan, Torrance, Redondo, everywhere else. I'm pushing hard to make Gardena a destination city. So the past 9 years, we've been making these changes, hiring more code enforcement to help, our residents keep up their properties and make sure businesses are doing what they're supposed to do. Bringing more businesses to Gardena, bringing in more housing, not just well, put it like this. I'm sure all of you guys know typical single family homes are not being built. Everything now is going vertical. So a lot of our residents are kind of pushing back on that, but we've tried to educate them, let them know that now is the new norm with the, townhomes, things that are taller. And so we're looking at different types of housing, micro units. We just built that in Gardena, luxury apartments, things of that nature to try to attract millennials in. So I like to say that we have a little bit of something for everybody. So the traditional single family homes, our apartments that we've had for many years, but now we have luxury apartments, micro units, and so much more. And the way we're getting that message out is through our social media, and it has been doing phenomenal so that people can see all the great work that we're doing in Gardena. All right, that's my presentation. Trying my best to talk fast here. So, but thank you guys. I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome.
I know the city of Gardena really well.
And so I'm going to tell you one quick thing here that I'm pushing for. I'm trying to remember South Bay Association of Realtors. I think they're the ones. When I went before them, something that the city of Gardena is doing that I'm not happy with, that I think is kind of hurting you guys, is that we don't allow, like when you put the signs out saying open house, put it on the sidewalks. Our code enforcement doesn't allow that. And so I'm pushing to change that because you guys are helping bring residents in. So it's not like what you're doing is a disservice. It's actually a service to us. So the one thing I want to caution everybody on is if you need to put those out, if maybe you could ask the neighbor who lives on that corner if you can put it on their grass that points in that direction. I think it's really unfair, but I'm trying to encourage my colleagues to switch that up because you only have it out there for the day. You pick up your flags and things afterwards. So I may need to reach out to you guys and say, I need you to come out to our council meetings and just, sometimes when our city council sees, a group out there supporting it, that's how we can get things changed. So, but I think that will be something that will really help you guys out because I am connected to the real estate group in insurance and family and so on. But thank you guys for what you guys do. Great job. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, sure. You want to do it this way where everybody's kind of, everybody, where everybody can be seen in there, like, or? Yeah.
All right, everyone wave, please. All right, here we go. 1, 2, and 3. Awesome.
All right.
All right.
Thank you guys again. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
All set. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Thank you for coming in.
Oh, you're so welcome.
We have a 1 o'clock.
Oh, no, I got to get back to the city in 10 minutes. But thank you again. Hey, can you send me that picture? Do you mind?
Yeah.
I would love to post it.
Yeah, give me your
I'll give you my cell real quick.
562.
Here, let me just call you real quick. I'm not gonna run out the door.
843 and 17.
I'm just call you. Let me just put that in here real quick. And then, so thank you again for giving this opportunity. I'm sorry I'm running late here.